Psych drugs are not good or bad in and of themselves. Like, I don't want to villainize a substance. Nothing is inherently malevolent. It generally is the way that we use them. So maybe these substances can be really helpful on a journey at some point in time. Psych drugs reduce brain functioning and change neurochemistry. It's very interesting because once upon a time when I was young, the doctors told me that I had a chemical imbalance in my brain and needed these substances to fix that. Turns out that's a lie. The chemical imbalance theory was invented by a Prozac marketing executive in the 80s, and it became the mainstream medical narrative taught in schools to doctors. What's really cool about this moment in time is there is so much information coming out debunking these myths. Your brain is totally fine, and your body is always attempting to reach homeostasis, create balance. The reason that psych drugs are so addictive is because when introduced, these substances create a chemical imbalance. How interesting is that? It's the exact opposite of what we were told in the 80s, 90s when I got put on these drugs at 12 years old. For me, I look at psych drugs as control from the inside. My function is reduced. My ability to feel is reduced. And maybe that's a relief for a period of time. But altering brain function for decades, like I did, is not healthy for a body. There are no studies out there linking major illness to psych drug use. But what I can share with you is now I am part of a psych survivors community, and it's really interesting to see how many other people with stories like mine have also experienced major illness like autoimmune disease. I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you medical advice. What I just want to do is offer you options, and the information here now is meant for harm reduction. From a practical standpoint, the tapering recommendations that the mainstream medical system often gives us can be way too fast. When I decided to go off my psych drugs, I had had doctors tell me, oh, just taper off that for a couple weeks and switch drugs so many times. And so that's what I did. I just tapered off my psych drugs for a couple weeks. And then when I hit drug zero, I was so unwell. I had been taking benzo tranquilizers for 18 years daily, which are notorious for terrible withdrawal and for being highly addictive. My brain had gotten used to having those chemicals. And so when they disappeared, you know, your brain has neuroplasticity. It's amazing. The brain can adjust and adapt and change and develop and grow, but we have to give it time. That returning to balance and homeostasis doesn't happen like boom overnight. So what happens if you just go boom off the drugs, then whoa, your brain's like, I thought I had that thing and now I don't, and it freaks out. And especially if it's a substance like antidepressants or benzos that's reducing brain function and numbing, your brain can go on too fast. Benzo withdrawal is linked to seizures. You can die from going off benzos too fast. I'm not a doctor, but I don't want that to happen to you. And as a layperson, I can raise the alarm that messing with these substances can be very dangerous. I experienced great bodily harm from a too fast, unsafe withdrawal taper, right? So the recommendations from the lay person community, people who have actually gone through the process of detoxing off psych drugs, is for benzos, 3 to 5% taper each month. Yeah, it could take years, but hey, listen to my story. I detoxed off all those drugs way too fast and spent 6 months in the throes of terrible withdrawal. I couldn't work. I lost my job. I could barely get out of bed. It demolished my entire life. So, would you rather spend 6 months writhing in the throes of withdrawal like me, or spend an extra 6 months tapering slowly? Like, it's the same timeline, just way safer. For antidepressants, mood stabilizers, ADHD drugs, that timeline might be a little shorter. You might be able to do 10% or 15%, sometimes even up to 30%. There is this incredible resource called the Inner Compass Initiative, and it's a website that's written by lay people who have actually gone through the process of tapering off psychiatric drugs, and they give really detailed information about things like how to shave pills, how to count beads, how to make a liquid mixture, because one of the biggest challenges is when you're doing these super slow, safe tapers, you can get to a point where you're like, I'm on the lowest dose and I can't cut it any farther. How do I make a smaller taper from this? So maybe you could do something like make a liquid mixture. And there's all of this really great information how you can do that on that website. That's where I direct my clients when I need assistance offering great advice. From more of a spiritual perspective, as a coach, I'm not a doctor, so I don't give people advice like, oh, this is what you should do. I offer them resources so that they can figure out the right safe taper plan and create that for themselves. Because this is a moment where you are taking back your body, where you are taking control of your life. Those drugs control you from the inside. This is the moment where you say, I know better than all the doctors, than my parents, my spouse, whomever is offering you these substances as the solution. It's the moment where you decide, I'm the medicine. I have everything I need inside of me to heal and be well and manage my moods and my emotions. And I am ready to feel deeply the full spectrum from sorrow to joy. I'm ready to have the entire human experience unlocked for me. And to do that, you have to stop thinking you're broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you are really sensitive, and maybe that's one of your superpowers. Often these things that we think make us defective and broken are our hidden secret gifts. It bums me out. So many people that I work with are magical beings who are so freaking awesome and so misunderstood in modern society. In ancient cultures, people who heard voices were the shamans and the wise ones. What if the very things that you believe are broken about you are actually superpowers, gifts that you just have to claim and unleash? What if you are not a victim of your crazy? What if you have total control to choose your vibration and direct your life? That is a rebel move. It is such a rebel move, a rebel act to declare, this is my life and I can do it. And I see you. You can do it. You got this. Brave rebel hero. I believe that the time it takes to taper off those drugs is the exact timeline that you need for rebel training. Maybe it's going to take 6 months. Maybe it's going to take a year. It takes a while to do a daily practice and rewire your brain and discover coping tools and add them to your toolkit so that when you get triggered, instead of having a hyperventilating panic attack like me, you're able to breathe through it, right? So instead of seeing this taper time like, oh my God, I have to spend 6 months or a year tapering off these drugs, I just want it over with, how about we believe that it is 100% divine perfect, and that's the time that you need to build up your tools and strengthen your system so that you can be truly thriving without those substances. And when you get to that moment, that drug zero, whew, it's very exciting. I'm not gonna lie though, it can be disorienting. Often there is a period where there are some physical struggles, some withdrawal, some reorienting, there's a big change, right? You're doing life 100% you without this assistance that you've had all of that time. Everything has been unlocked. All the feelings and emotions are coming now. And so there may be a time period where all the things that you didn't feel need to come to the surface, to be seen and felt and loved, purged, integrated, transmuted. I really had that. The first couple years after I detoxed off my psych drugs, I was in a pretty hefty process where I did a lot of crying, I screamed on my knees. I'm really glad I found psychedelics. Some of the ceremonies that I was in, I was able to just weep and shake, and I could feel that trauma and pain moving out of my body. And I also believe that my autoimmune disease has helped me with this. My sweet body, she is the vehicle that held all of those emotions and all of that memory and brought it back to me and allowed me to purge and process it. And now I have this beautiful opportunity to create a new relationship with her. And once I was completely off the psych drugs, I had this bizarre paradigm shift that I had to work through. Like, I thought I needed these drugs my entire life. And then I got off them and I was like, that's not true. I felt like Jim Carrey in that movie, The Truman Show, where he's living in the fake world and he doesn't know that it's fake. And then he realizes one day, he's like, oh my God, I could just walk out the door. That's how I felt about the psych drugs. I was like, all my life I thought that I had to live in this cage where I couldn't feel everything. And I finally opened the door and walked out and like, oh my, this is me. All of these crazy feelings, all of these big emotions. I was on those drugs for 22 years. How exciting is it to discover who I am? And here in this moment of neuroplasticity where your brain is already changing and adapting and growing and doing this big recalibrating process, you have this glorious moment where you get to choose, who do you want to be? Who are you going to be? What do you desire? What's your dreams? And maybe you don't know. I'm going to say, be curious, be playful, practice gratitude. Choose joy. The final thing I desire to communicate and transmit when it comes to detox off psych drugs is that pristine, fierce physical self-care is a must. Exercise, move your body, get enough sleep, eat well, support your system. This is a time for extra TLC and love. Because this beautiful body of yours, that's your most important job. Your body, your life, you. Wherever you are on the journey, it's perfect. You're doing a great job. And I celebrate you. Beautiful rebel hero. You got this.